Welcome to the show, and I'd like to say a big welcome to Dr. Susan Strauss.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And I'd like to introduce our first guest, Diane Keyes. She is an author and a homestager. She's been a homestager for 25 years.
Yes, I have.
And
long before the name staging even existed.
All right.
And when we think of staging, what in the world is it anyway? I mean, I sort of have an idea. When I sold my house, we had a stager that was brought in with the real estate agent. But when did it develop, the term, and then what is it exactly?
It started in popularity about 20 years ago, and as is most common, it started on the West Coast because they're just more visually interested in life than the rest of us. And I've been doing it for 25 years because I found a need for it long before that. And my approach is a little bit different to the West Coast in that my approach is mostly about psychology, where theirs is mostly about decorating.
Okay.
It's about preparing a house visually for the buyers when they come, when the house is for sale.
So what do you mean a little bit more about the psychology rather than the decorating? Tell me more about that.
Well, basically, psychology is at the root of any sale, whether you're buying a hat or a handbag. It's always about psychology and what is it that makes someone want your product more than someone else's. And so what I did was research that and found that there are definitely decorating elements that make a difference to sale, but it also has a lot to do about psychology. For example, natural light raises people's comfort level. Even if these are the same people who will pull down every blind the minute they own the home, initially in a space, it makes them feel safer. Okay, so if you let in all the natural light, people are much more inclined to relax, and of course they're much more inclined to buy a house where they feel relaxed.
Right.
Okay, and so that we are hardwired from that when we were first on the planet, because the further you could see, the safer you were. In fact, that's why people like water views. We think it's because it's beautiful. It's actually because it's safe.
Because we can see.
Yes, because we can see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What about, like I've heard you should put chocolate chip cookies on the counter or make the house smell like baking bread. Does that help in this?
It absolutely does. And the reason is because scent is our first primal sense. Babies smell in the womb at 6 weeks gestation. So it's our very first sense. So it registers very subliminally with people. So, and everyone has their own scent. You know, it's the combination of the foods they make and the cleaning products they use. And so if you can cover that with a scent that's generally agreeable to everyone, you're much better off.
Okay.
Except that what you have to be very careful about is using a scent that is chemically produced. So the chocolate chip cookies, the coffee, cinnamon on light bulbs, all those things work, but don't use the chemical scents that are in candles or in air fresheners.
Okay. So
Because a lot of people have responses to those that are not pleasant, whether it's headaches or allergies.
And so let's say I say, well, I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to get it staged. So what's that process like? So what are you're going to come over to my house and tell me, what would you do?
Okay,
would
what
you
I
assess?
do is I come in and first of all I find out what your story is and
Okay.
what's your reason for leaving. You know, these days a lot of people are leaving their homes for not happy events. And so that makes a big difference. And I have a long history in ministry, and so I bring that listening quality to.
And Diane, when you say not happy events, so what do you mean by that?
Well, a house could be being sold on a short sale, or
sure.
they've lost their job, they can't afford to keep it, or
Okay,
there's been a death in the family, and you know they can't stay. So people need to feel ready to leave, because if a homeowner is not ready to leave their home, the best real estate agent in the world cannot sell it. So I hopefully am able to help people get ready to sell a house.
Well, so what would you do if the house is already vacant? How do you stage a house
Yeah.
without bringing in furniture or making it look as though it's not vacant.
Yeah, there are a lot of stagers who bring in furniture, and I do not think that's necessary. Primarily, the reason that houses don't sell when they're vacant is because the focus is all on the past. What you need
Okay.
is a focus on the future. New construction, they never have a trouble selling new construction and it's vacant. So what you have
Yeah.
to do is create that very interesting future vibe, which you can do easily with little vignettes in the rooms where no furniture is required, like the kitchen, like the bathroom, like the laundry room, so that you can make it appear more friendly and inviting than just an empty house, because an empty house doesn't really make people want to stay.
Okay, so maybe would you put some utensils in the kitchen, or what would
Yeah,
you,
what
would you do?
might suggest, like putting pretty bottles of olive oil on the counters with maybe a real new cookbook, creating kind of a Williams-Sonoma vibe
yeah.
with some gourmet items that might make it interesting, because it slows people down. And even if they take just a few more seconds to look at a room, that few more seconds can mean the difference between a pass and a sale.
So if people wanted to try to do some staging of their own, do you have any specific tips that you would give the viewers as to what they could do?
Absolutely. First of all, clean, 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 because if you have a clean house, you immediately put your home at the top of your price point, because most homes are not that clean.
Really?
And that makes a huge difference. The second thing is you need to take out a lot of stuff, because the way you live in a house is not the way you sell a house. Because 90% of people find their homes today online. And when you put what you usually have in your home in a picture online with a number of other pictures so that they kind of come up collage style, it is too much information.
Okay.
So you have to pare down that look. So that's why I feel it's not about the decorating and adding those extra pillows. It is about giving people enough to make it look interesting, but not too much to absolutely overwhelm them.
Now, my son and I, we went to look at a house. My husband and I have just decided to take a look to see what's on the market. We're not real serious yet, but what was interesting to me is my little boy, when he went into one of the bedrooms, and this was a model home, staged beautifully, ready to go, right?
Right.
He jumped up on the bed, and I was before I could catch him to say, "Don't get up on their bed," he said, "Mommy, I could just be here right now." But I think what spoke to him is the room was set up in such a way that he could imagine himself living there. So is that really a big part of this process, where you want people to come in and say, not imagining themselves on the homeowner's life, but it's about my life as the new
Right.
buyer, isn't it?
That's
Can you speak to more of that? Yeah.
hit the nail on the head, Ali. It is about helping people to imagine themselves living in the space.
Okay.
That's why removing like personal pictures are so important. It's
Right.
like oftentimes homeowners will say to me, "Well, what difference does it make?"
Yeah.
And it's like every time they see a personal picture, they say, "This is not my house. This is someone else's
They
house."
associate that with somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Okay.
And it's a little intimidating just walking into someone else's space
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So you add those personal items, and that makes a huge difference. The other piece of that is that when you start taking out some of your things, it doesn't feel as much like home.
Oh,
And when it
that's
doesn't
interesting.
feel as much like home, it makes it much easier for you to let go of the house and for others to feel the energy to buy.
Okay.
Realtors will often tell me they can tell coming up a driveway if there's a lot of owner energy in a house. If you've got a house just the way you want it, you don't want people messing with it. I will often go into homes and I'll say, "Can we move this from here to here?" And it's like, they can't do it. It's like, okay, then we have to have a different
wow, yeah.
discussion, because they're not ready. They're not ready.
Now, do you have like an art background or some creative? I mean, you'd have to be creative to do what you do, I would think. So is that what your background? You talked about the ministry, but I mean, I have no creative juices at all, and I'm listening to you on these things. You must have learned that somewhere.
Actually, it's just an intuitive sense.
It is, huh?
When feng shui first started being discussed, which is now probably about 15 years ago, I didn't know a thing about it. But I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I thought, I wonder if that's what I do. And sure enough, I got a book on feng shui, and it's something that just comes intuitively to me.
Wow.
That is so interesting.
It is very interesting that you stage using that philosophy.
And so if a viewer out there wanted to get more information, learn more about what you do or your book, do you have a resource?
Sure. You can always reach me at my email, Diane at DianeKeyes.com.
Okay.
And then I've got also a website, thisouldhouse.biz.
.biz, okay.
I believe. I'm not even sure.
They could just Google the Soul House.
The Soul House, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Interesting.
Well, this has been really fascinating.
It has.
Yeah,
Very
some
interesting.
thoughts
Thanks.
I wouldn't have thought about. So thank you for coming on and sharing what you do, and all the best to you.
Well, thank you
Yes.
so much for having me.
Excellent.
I enjoyed it.